Welcome back to the Roundup. Thank you for joining us on the last edition of this program that we're doing during the session. I'm joined tonight by Representative Ann Lucas and Representative Gary Brown. So welcome to the program, both of you. Gary, this is the first time you've been on the show, or any of my shows, really, I think.
We did an interview back during my campaign.
Okay, so it's been a
Yeah,
while.
it's been a while.
Why don't you take a couple minutes and tell my audience about yourself?
Okay, David. I'm Gary Brown, House District 41 here in Cheyenne. I'm in town. I really promised my constituents, and this is something that I was really proud of, that I promised my constituents as I was going door to door that I was a conservative and that I would be voting conservative. And so I've done that through these 2 years, and we've seen some great things happen. My constituents that I've talked to have been really happy with me, and so I'm going to be going ahead and running for reelection. I want to do 2 terms, and then I want to go fishing.
Well,
And,
Gary, I have to tell you, I do have a bone to pick with you because you dispatched with one of my favorite sources of content, the venerable Bill Henderson. So I'm a little irritated with you. You got rid of him.
Well, I'm sorry I had to do that, David. But Bill was entertaining, but it was I feel it was an easy win because Bill would go around and promise the people in the district that he was conservative, and then he would vote with the Democrats about 85% of the time, and so it was kind of a go to the door and tell him what he'd been doing and show him the evidence. Not just tell him, but actually show him the evidence of what he'd been doing. And they were several were shocked. Several, when I would tell them what I was doing, would start cheering. So it was. But I'm sorry that I took that away from you.
Yeah, well, I'll get over it. It'll be all right. So we've got a couple of different things we want to talk about tonight. One of the bigger bills, I guess bigger in terms of money and bigger in terms of support is Senate File 123. And that is the so-called energy dominance bill. Now, essentially what it would do is create a fund for grants to energy companies. And, we do a lot of this in Wyoming. You probably heard of the big controversy surrounding the Wyoming Business Council. I mean, if you've been listening to my program, you've definitely heard of that. But the Energy Dominance Bill would create a grant program for energy companies. And you two just finished talking about it on the floor. So what I'd like you to do is just we'll start with you, Ann. Just take a couple minutes and talk to me about it, how you voted, what you think of it. Just fill us in.
So it is, it's that sweet, sweet federal money that we just can't get enough of here in Wyoming. And the problem, of course, folks, is that we get this money from Washington, D.C. And if there are 3 of you out there who don't pay any federal income taxes, okay, so this is not your money. But the rest of us do pay federal income taxes. So this is our money. It's not just that money from Washington, D.C. And this one it was $105 million.
$100 million.
Yeah, 100 million. That's a lot of money, guys. And so it would be grants and loans.
Okay.
And then we had an amendment come through that would have turned that from grants just into loans. That amendment did not succeed because even conservatives like the idea of free money.
Weird.
Not all conservatives, of course, but some do. And, it's one of those where you like to know what are the strings and all of this. But this bill, frankly, just kind of almost came out of nowhere really fast. Hence the high number on it, 123. Yeah, Gary, you had a bill that was like number what, 4 or 6 or 2?
Mine, I had 2 that were numbered consecutively. I had the ivermectin bill, over-the-counter bill, which was a great bill.
What number, though? You had really low numbers.
And that was 13.
Yeah.
And then my second bill was the self-defense bill that I had, and that was 14. And so, they were low, but
So they're numbered sequentially. And so 123 is kind of a high numbered bill. So that means that
especially in the Senate.
Yeah.
Bill was working on this late. This was a late coming bill. And it's one, though, that, the Trump administration really liked it and they were pushing it through. So it's Trump endorsed, so to speak.
Sort of.
Yeah. And so we had amendments on it. One was to push it down to $50 million and then also to change it so that only entities who pay severance tax could get the money, the grants. And I think that, our oil and gas folks would like that. I had no time to talk to Pete Obermuller, for example, to find out what he thought of it, but I'll bet you he probably liked it. But that did not succeed either. That amendment did not succeed. So we're basically where we are. We did pass the bill back over to the Senate. So now we're just waiting to see. I don't know if there's going to be a concurrence on that. Do you remember? I can't
don't
remember if
think-
we actually had an amendment
I don't
stick.
think there was an amendment on that bill. I think it went over clean.
Yeah.
All right. So we got Ann's take on it. Gary, what do you think of this bill?
Well, I'm one of those people that I believe businesses need to stand on their own. And I think they do best with competition. And so, giving incentives to businesses, I understand where they're happy with that because, there's just more profit for them in the end. But I think our state does better when we have good competition. And so when other businesses that can't get that money from outside the state that want to come here see a level playing field, we're going to see more good businesses come here. And so, I'm just not that person that can go ahead and give taxpayers money. And that's what it is. It's all taxpayers' money. The government has no money of its own. And so to give taxpayers money to incentivize businesses is just not good.
Well, and I feel the same way. I'm not, and if you listen to my program, you know this, that I'm absolutely not in favor of picking winners and losers. We do, in Wyoming, we do a lot of this corporate welfare stuff that I really find distasteful. And the best example that I ever ran into, and it's not really related to the Wyoming Business Council or to this energy bill. Let me just tell you about it. So in Buffalo, they were going to pass this sales tax, an increase in the sales tax. And it was going to be for 20 years, and they were going to use it to build all of these fantastic buildings around Buffalo. But a big chunk of it, tens of millions of dollars, was going to go to the local YMCA. And the very first thing they said is, we're going to build this state-of-the-art gym. It's going to be great. All of brand new exercise equipment. And so I went down the street to a guy that owns a private gym, not even 2 blocks away from the YMCA. His name's Tucker, and he dumped every red cent that he had into that gym. And his point was, no, why should I, private businessman, have to compete with government? And that's what we do. And especially with these, and this is I'm not in favor of Senate File 123. I think that it is very much a bill to campaign on. And the biggest reason I'm not in favor of it is you're giving millions and millions and millions of dollars to companies that are already worth millions and millions and millions of dollars, and
Or more.
Billions
billions perhaps.
of dollars.
And so I'm just not in favor of this, economic adventurism. I feel the same way about the Business Council, and we do way too much of this in Wyoming.
Just a point on that, though, oil and gas folks, the severance tax is quite steep. Quite steep. I mean,
12.5%.
Yeah, we get a lot of money from those folks.
Yeah, we do.
We do. And as they're fond of pointing out in committees, that they pay the way for a lot of Wyoming folks. So I wouldn't be as hard on letting folks like that pardon me, who are already paying their way in Wyoming get a little bit, I like the idea of loans better than grants. I really do, because we get it back. We get the money back theoretically. And also we have a proven path with those folks. They're not moochers. They have a product that it really does a good job for the state of Wyoming. But we will allow others to take part in this program, apparently, and we don't even know who they are, and we don't even know what they do. And maybe we'll let the Wyoming Business Council decide all of that too, huh?
Yeah.
I just
yeah.
made that up, folks. I just made that up.
Well, here's the biggest problem, though, is that companies do not pay taxes. Okay, I
Exactly.
guess immediately, yeah, somebody's got to write a check. But the reason why companies don't pay taxes is they always the tax charge or whatever always gets passed on to the consumer. Because if you're a smart businessman, you are not going to absorb those costs because you got to turn a profit, and you're in the business to make money. And so, absolutely, you're going to pass those expenses onto your customer. And so, I mean, so often on the floor, I've heard this argument that, well, these companies are paying taxes, and I think it was Representative Pendergraft who made a big deal. He said, no, companies don't pay taxes, people do. What do you think, Gary?
Absolutely, and we see that everywhere, in every aspect of taxes. When I was out campaigning, I would talk to people about property taxes, and they would tell me, "Well, I don't pay property taxes; I rent." And I would say, "Yes, you do.
What do you
It's
think you
rolled
pay
into
every
your
month?"
rent." I'm going to tell you, this is the thing. The owner of these rental houses and apartment buildings are not in that business to lose money. And if they're paying the property tax and they're paying the insurance and the maintenance on that, they're not making money. You are paying that.
Yeah, exactly right. So let's stay on this issue of taxes, because today on the floor there was a big discussion of property taxes. And why don't you just walk us through what happened?
So that was Senate File 110, and that was from Senator Hicks. And oh my gosh, well, the first thing I've got to say, folks, is people in the House like to talk, and they like to hear themselves talk.
No.
Yeah, Gary and I don't talk on the floor nearly as much as a lot of these folks, but boy, howdy, when you get a bill like that, we're not going to get through these 5 or 6 or 7 amendments. Oh, maybe in about 2 hours,
Yeah.
2.5 hours. What
I
do you
think
think?
one of those amendments went for close to an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One amendment.
Well, and if you introduce the name Steve Harshman and taxes in the same sentence, it'll go on for hours and hours and hours. So, Ann, what was the bill specifically about?
So this was a restructure of the 25% tax break, and Gary, jump in on this whenever I kind of forget what I'm doing, because I'll tell you what, folks, I've been at this for a long time today. And
late.
I'm close to mental mush at this
I think
point.
I was there too.
Yeah, I know, right? And so it had a lot of amendments on it, and the amendments were from almost all of the usual suspects. And basically, we can't afford to give people a tax cut. And some of this, there were opposing arguments. Some people are going to pay more tax. Some people are going to pay less tax. Oh, but let's get an amendment in here that will, first off, change the exemption, the maximum exemption from $1 million to $3 million. And I'm not against that totally, because I used to do taxes for a living, folks, so I know a little bit about how it works with people who earn money and pays taxes, that folks who earn a lot of money pay a lot of taxes. They tend to afford higher price homes, so their property taxes are higher. They tend to spend more money, so they pay a lot more in sales tax. And plus, they pay Uncle Sam a whole lot of money for income tax. And so these folks are not degenerates in the way of paying taxes. They pay their fair share, even though a lot of liberals will say that they don't. I had letters from folks who live in our most expensive county, Teton County, saying, hey, good luck on your election. And could you make sure that when you lower property taxes, because that's one of the things I ran on, was I want your taxes to be lower. And they'd say, but could you not income limit it? Because, rich people deserve to pay a little bit less in taxes too.
Well, everybody does.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Tax.
And
yeah.
here's the thing. Excuse me. Here's the thing, David. If a person is making, say, $1.5 million a year, their income is $1.5 million a year. If they were paying the same percentage as, say, somebody who makes $50,000 a year, they're still paying their fair share. They're paying an even amount. Their 10% would be higher, more money than the person who's making $50,000. Why do we want to punish people by saying you're successful, so you have to pay 80% of your income into taxes? I mean, that's just not right.
Well, no, it's not, and I think that you brought this up. We often hear from the Democrat Party, and not as well in Wyoming. It's not just the Democrat Party; it's the liberal Republicans
liberal.
too. The what did Rebecca call them? The counterfeit Republicans.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, it was perfect. But we often hear, well, we're not paying the same amount in taxes, but that's actually a non sequitur because we're talking about tax rates. And when you say, when the liberals say, we're not paying as much the same amount in taxes, well, yeah, well, we are because it's the same rate.
Well, it's not even the same rate, David. In income,
Well, income taxes, no.
Income tax is on a sliding scale, and the more you earn, the higher your rate is.
Yeah.
And so our top end rate is nearly 40%. But I'm here to tell you that folks who earn very little money pay no income tax. So there's a big difference between 0 and 38%.
Okay, so yeah, you're right. All right, so let's switch topics.
Yep.
One of your pet bills, I shouldn't call it a pet bill, but it's been your project for
One of my babies.
quite some time, was House Bill 10, and we've covered this a lot on the Open Range Record, and I think the last time you were here we talked about it too. But there were some things that happened in the Senate to your bill, and I just want to get your thoughts on it. Run us through what happened, and then just go ahead and let us hear it.
So just quick refresher, folks. House Bill 10 was the obscenity library materials amendments, and I just hosed up that title because it's changed a little bit over the last couple of years. And this was a civil bill, and the the Joint Judiciary Committee worked this bill, massaged this bill. I worked with them on that. I testified to them every single time they met, trucking my bags of nasty books with me. And
Yeah, if you want to see some dirty,
I'll
dirty
tell you,
books,
man, I got a
got 'em.
nice collection, folks. Contact David if you want my book list or find me. But so the Judiciary Committee produced a good bill. It was not a criminal bill. Librarians weren't going to go to jail. It just simply, very simply, folks, required that the libraries and public school libraries put books that contain adult sexual content in areas for adult only access. That's it. If you want your kid to read porn, you have to go get it from the adult section, bring it home, and give it to your kid. The library was not going to be able to do that. Oh my gosh, you would have thought that we were asking people to murder each other or something over this. They're as devoted to kiddie porn as they are to abortion. It is a lifestyle for them, and I know I'm going to get hate calls. That's okay.
It'll be okay.
That's okay. You got my number, folks. Just send me a text. So the bill went to the House Judiciary, went through to the House, went successfully then to the
Pretty
Senate
easily.
Judiciary Committee. Yeah, there were no problems with this bill. Little tweaks here and there, no problems. Went to Senate Judiciary, and we encountered some issues. Senator Crago once again decided he did not like this bill. He liked it, he didn't like it, now he doesn't like it. Anyway, it did get out of Judiciary just fine with a majority vote, and then it hit the Senate floor. And it sat there for 3 days, did not advance to the Committee of the Whole at all. And then it moved up a little bit, but then it moved back down.
Yeah, it was going up and down. on
And then
the
it
list.
moved up,
Like
and
a
then it
yo-yo.
moved down.
Yeah.
And I just kept an eye on it, and it never got heard.
Nope.
Nothing. Crickets, folks. The Senate doesn't care if your kids have access to really nasty stuff in the children's
Yeah,
libraries.
and just let me interrupt for just a second. So, I mean, if you really feel so inclined to find out what Ann is talking about, we did publish an article on the Open Range Record, and I did not pick some of the more shocking screenshots. However, the ones that I did pick were the least offensive of the bunch, and they're still pretty bad. But you can go find that article. It's on I think it's on the House Insider page, or yeah, I think that's where it's at. But you'll see it in the picture. Is a picture of Art Washit, and it says House Bill 10 on it.
Yes.
But Gary, you wanted to chime in on this.
I do, because here's the thing, and this is something I've never understood. What Ann's talking about here, by just moving them over to the adult section, what is the real problem with that? Because again, parents want their children to have those books, can get them for them. So what's the problem? The problem is these people want your kids to have them.
Bingo.
Yeah, no, I bet
And
if you asked
this
them about their
is
kids,
the-
it would be different.
And they want your kids to go in the library and find those, accidentally get into them and go, wow, what am I looking at? And start getting into this. Their parents don't want them to have them. Let the parents make the choice. So why do they work so hard to keep these in the position where kids can get to them and say, I just want my kid to have them. I'm not telling you to let your kid have them.
Go to
Hey,
Amazon.
let's fix it.
Barnes and Noble. Barnes and Noble, right here in Cheyenne, will sell you every book that you want. The answer to this, though, is that we're fighting evil here, folks. These folks want your children, my children, to be exposed at a very early age to adult sexual content because it desensitizes children. These folks, honestly, they would be horrified, but they don't listen to you anyway, I bet you. So I hope they are, actually. But they're groomers. They don't understand it, but they're grooming children to be sexualized young, far too young.
Well, and the other thing, and I think you'd agree with this, is that the big narrative out there is the conservatives want to ban books. They want
That's
to
what
ban
they
books.
say, yeah.
And you know, folks, I'm going to tell you, moving these to the adult section is not banning books. If we took them completely out of the library, which is not what we're suggesting here, it's not banning books because, like you said, you can go on the internet, you can go to Barnes and Noble, you can go any place and get them for your children.
They're not illegal. And the word banning is not the same as reshelving. I understand what words mean, and they are intentionally distorting the intent of this bill. Intentionally.
All right. Well, there's one more piece of this so where we left off is House Bill 10 did not meet the deadline
Right.
for Committee of the Whole, and so under normal circumstances it would be dead. Like it goes away, and you got to wait till next year. However, Troy McEwen
Oh, yeah.
from Gillette, he made an attempt to, and I don't remember the motion. It's kind of complicated, but essentially, it's a motion to bring that bill out of the hands of the majority floor leader and move it straight to the floor, and just to override.
For reconsideration.
Yeah, for reconsideration. So he made that motion, and then what happened, Dan?
So then debate ensues. And then you hear all of the folks, and the vote is out there, folks. You just have to look for House Bill 10 and then go to the digest and you can find it. It'll be the very last vote on that list. So you can see all of the people who voted against it. They had the big debate, they talked about it, and long story short, the majority of the senators voted against this bill coming to the floor. They wouldn't even debate it in a real environment. It was kind of a mini debate.
Well, and the argument they'll use in the election, and Poison Barry, excuse me, Barry Crago loves this argument. Well, no, it failed on a procedural motion. I didn't vote against the bill. I just don't like, changing up the procedure. And so that's really how it died.
Pardon me. He did vote against the bill. He voted against the bill in committee.
Yep.
When we had actually even the Joint Judiciary Committee had even crafted an amendment that he had agreed to, because he said, wow, this bill, every book, every bit of the library would become a children's library.
Yeah.
And so, they crafted a nice little get around on that one to make him happy. And then he voted against it anyway. He never intended to support that bill.
And there's a lot of them like that.
Oh, of course.
And I don't think that we should let this piece of it go either. Like Ann said, go to wildledge.gov and you go to I think it's called Session Information, and it'll list all the bills.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Go to House Bill 10, and then you can look at the digest all the way down at the bottom, and you'll find the list of the people that voted against it. Now, these are the same people that, if it were a different bill, they would be up at the microphone talking about their grandchildren till they're blue in the face. But when it comes to, keeping what is cartoon, not even cartoon, but what is pornography out of the hands of children, well, then that's just a bridge too far.
Well, it is cartoons, though. They're nasty cartoons because they can't do photos. Photos would be pornography. And so this is adult level content. And some of these books, folks,
They're
are
horrendous.
all cartoon. They're all illustrated. And I have a nice collection, like I said. I showed one to my husband. He goes, I can't look at that. And then I said, but it's all illustrated. It's all cartoons. He says, of course, Johnny can't read.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's switch gears a little bit. And a topic that we have not discussed on the Roundup. And this is an interesting bill that you've been advocating for, Ann. And I don't remember the name, the bill number of it. But it was to make court records available to everybody.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that.
I think it was House Bill 93. Don't quote me on that. But I had another one that was 92, and so they tend to do them in sequence. And it's the people's right to judiciary transparency, something like that. So, folks, if you want to see court records, you have to go to the courthouse. Wherever it is you live, you have to go to the courthouse. Now, I live in Cheyenne, so I get to go to the big courthouse. And I have to go through a metal detector. I cannot bring my phone or my computer with me. They want to search me, and they want to search through my purse because I have metal in there, like an ink
Fingernail
pen.
clippers or something.
Yeah, keys, You cannot bring any electronics with you. You go into a room, it's loaded with PCs. There's like 6 of them because we're in Cheyenne. That's the big city.
Right.
In smaller cities, you may only have one computer
Sure.
that you can access.
Yeah.
And you look up your court case, and then you read it, and then you can take notes or you can print. $1 for the first page, 50 cents for every page thereafter. I went there and I wanted to see the WEA lawsuit that was filed a couple of years ago, but that was most recently decided. Over 10,000 pages, folks. And I am here to tell you that we have this thing called the internet.
Weird.
I know. We've only had access to it now for 30 plus years. And some states actually allow you to access court documents on the internet.
Weird.
And
Yeah.
now you can redact, You can redact sensitive information, or you could withhold cases that are so sensitive you wouldn't allow them
Right.
on.
Cases with children or
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever.
I had a tour. Diane Sanchez here at the Laramie County District Court took me on a tour, and in Laramie County, attorneys have to submit court documents electronically. They upload them. And then the clerks, folks, prepare them, index them, and then they're online in their system. So they're already digitized, folks. They're already indexed. We are ready to do this, but we won't do it. So I wrote this bill. I was very pleased with it. And it would require that these cases be available to you and anybody on the internet, okay, for free.
Shocking. How dare you?
Now, I'm here to tell you, the state does not earn much money from this. The counties do not earn much money from this because most people are not going to pay thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars.
Gary?
And don't you want to know what your judges are doing?
See, that's another big piece of this.
That's what
huge.
we want to know. Because we have judges that legislate from the bench. We have judges that show preferences to people. We want to know what they're doing. So do we want to retain these judges?
No, we don't.
We don't. We
Definitely
don't
not any of
because,
them.
because they're not doing their job in the way they should be doing it. And that's with, in essence, with blinders on. That's what they should be doing.
Absolutely.
Well, in some states, like the Supreme Court, you elect your judges. Now, I'm not advocating for that, right? I think that the most recent Wisconsin Supreme Court election is proof that that's probably a bad idea. Hundreds of millions of dollars were dumped into that thing. And with the price of elections going up exponentially in Wyoming, you can only imagine what a race for a Supreme Court justice would look like. So I don't think that that's probably a good option. That's just my opinion.
Can I ask you this? How do you feel about, and I understand with Supreme Court justices or state district judges, but what about just district judges and like that, the people voting for those? I mean, what's your feeling on that? I think that's something that the people might be interested in.
Well, I haven't given much thought to district judges. Lord knows the system that we have right now, this is the very reason why I got called out by the Supreme Court justice. That actually happened. If you want to go back and look, it's not by name, but the Supreme Court justice during the State of the Judiciary,
Yes, she did.
she says, well, and I have to correct something that this very popular podcaster said. And I was like, yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
But what I was,
Congrats.
yeah, well, whatever. But what I was criticizing is the way that we select judges. And
We?
essentially, well, we don't. The governor does. So the governor sets up he appoints, I think it's, was it 3 members of the Judicial Nominating Committee. 3 members are from the Bar Association, which I'm sure that they don't have any judicial ambitions whatsoever. And then the Chief Justice is on this. And then they select 3 candidates, and then the governor gets to choose.
Right.
So really, in selecting judges, we're left out of it. And so I guess, Gary, like to your point, I really haven't given much thought to how we select district judges. But Lord knows, we have a real problem there, too. Drag show Clark Stith. If you listen to my
Oh my
program,
gosh.
Clark Stith, former representative, donates to drag shows in his hometown. He's going to be the next district judge.
Yes, he is.
And imagine that guy deciding cases involving children, which he will be.
I will say one thing, though, that former Representative Stith, at least, has some court legal experience.
Yes, he does.
Where we have one Supreme Court justice right now who was ever a judge before, and the ones who have been attorneys have no courtroom experience, or it's so dated that it doesn't matter. So we literally are just picking, the governor is picking his friends or his former employees, maybe his former chief of staff.
Well, there's been a couple of recent ones. Well, I use the term recent sort of loosely, but one of them was Ed Buchanan, the former Secretary of State,
Yes.
who, let's just be honest, he protected the governor every way that he could.
Yep.
And then it was Bridget Hill, is the Supreme Court Justice that Ann was referring to. Never a judge before, and a really, in my opinion, a really crappy Attorney General.
Well, plus she was the AG and she has had to recuse herself from Supreme Court cases. I don't know how many times, like a third of the cases.
lot of them,
she
yeah.
can't touch because there's a conflict there because she was the AG.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty smart. Yeah, we could just go on and on about this. So what we need is we need justices, judges who actually have legal experience. Let's stop choosing everybody's best friend or buddies for this. We need to have some real focus on the type and talent that we're choosing to be on the bench.
Well, and back to Gary's point that, when we go to vote, you'll see judges on there, and it says vote to retain. Vote,
Shall be retained.
Shall retained. Shall
Yes,
be
no.
retained. Yes, no. Well, I never vote to retain a judge, and it's because I don't know that much about them, and I figure somebody new could probably do a good job. But the only way that you can find out about a judge is to read their opinions, and the only way to do that is to go to the courthouse.
Right.
All right, so let's. We've got one little thing that Gary wants to talk about. So let's do that real quick. I don't really want to rehash too much of the last 4 weeks, but I told you I'd give you some time on the show, so go to it.
So, as so many people are aware, we had an investigative committee formed on this Checkgate. They want to call it Checkgate. Something that was so innocent that, it was unbelievable that it even happened. And of course, we all know that they investigated it. And then the committee came out with its findings yesterday. And of course, they found what they had to find. They had to find that there was no wrongdoing. There was no rules broken by these people. There were no laws broken. There were rules broken,
But not by the people that were accused.
but not by the people who took the checks. There were no rules that they couldn't get checks on the floor at that point. Bad optics, probably, but would they have been bad optics if there wasn't somebody standing there with a camera wanting to make hay out of something that was innocent, and to go after these people? And let's face it, we're coming up on an election year, and that's what this was about. So everybody had a chance after the committee's findings were read to debate what was happening, what had happened. And Darren McCann, feel so sorry for you. This man was crucified.
Yeah, he was.
And he was crucified back in his district and back in his county. And he shouldn't have been. He did absolutely nothing wrong. So I got to thinking about it when we were discussing it. And I had already spoken at the mic one time. You got 2 chances to speak. And I just thought, something that the committee did not say that should have been said was that these people were not guilty. And so I decided to step to the mic and declare each one of these people not guilty. But then I lacked in doing some work that I should have done. And that was to declare Nina Weber not guilty. Representative Nina Weber was not guilty of anything either. We have a right to escort people onto the floor when we're not in session. And that's all Nina did. Rebecca Bextel did absolutely nothing wrong. She did not write those checks. She did not decide who those people who were to get those checks. Don Garasso asked her if she had any people that she would like to see get campaign donations. And I think she gave him more names than he gave her checks. And so Rebecca did nothing wrong. So Rebecca is completely innocent. And I would like to say that I will right now declare Rebecca Bexdale not guilty. And then Don Garasso. Let me tell you something. I don't know Don Garasso. Don Garasso sent me a check. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that Don Garasso seemed fit to send me $1,500 for my campaign because he liked what I've been doing on the floor of the House and what I've been doing since I've been up there. But Don Garasso, from my understanding, is a very generous man. And he can give that money to who he wants to give it to. And that's free speech. And so Don Garasso is not guilty of anything. But I'll tell you what somebody is guilty, and I may get in trouble for this, but I'm going to say it. LSO and the people who put his checks up for the whole world to see without taking and blacking out his account numbers and stuff on that. I think the state of Wyoming better be crossing their fingers because Don Garasso has a lawsuit that he could file on them for that. And I think, I really feel that he got crucified and he was no part of this whatsoever.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, Gary. A really cool story that Don told me himself, and maybe I've told you. I don't think I've told you this, Gary. Maybe I told you, Ann. But he donates a tremendous amount of money to inner city youth, and a lot of it goes through the Catholic Church. And what he does is he takes a group of kids that most of whom have never left their neighborhood. They really don't have anything, and so he kind of adopts them, and he brings them to Jackson. And I think this is such a cool story. Mm-hmm. One of the very first things he does is he takes them down to the custom hat shop in Jackson, which if you've never been there, it's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. I bought my hat there, not a custom one. I couldn't afford that. But anyway, he takes the kids in there and he buys them a hat. And the lesson, and most of these kids have never had something nice. They've never had something that's expensive that they have to take care of. And the lesson is, here, now you have something nice, and let's learn how to take care of it. And he told me that he went to their graduation, and just to see him graduate, and he said all of a sudden, all of them got up and they took off their graduation hat and they put on their cowboy hat and they wore it through the rest of the graduation. I mean, we're talking about a guy who is extraordinarily generous. Mm-hmm. And he got dragged through the mud on this, and so did Rebecca.
Oh yeah.
And Rebecca, I mean, there were still articles printed today and there was an op-ed in the Jackson Hole News and Guide that again tried to smear her. So Rebecca, Don, Nina, all of them. Mm-hmm. It's really a terrible situation.
It really is. I will say that Rebecca is a target, but not because she's wealthy and not because she's conservative and not because she found other conservative donors to give to legislators' campaign funds, but because she has been doing some fierce investigative work. And I believe she is hitting close to the mark and people are scared for their bacon.
Well, go ahead, Gary.
Well, and I've looked at some of this stuff, and let me say, let's get this out very clear too. This topic that they want to talk about with House Bill 141, that was Senate File 40 last year, and nobody gave any checks out last year, and I voted for that bill. There's a roll call vote on that bill. You can look it up. I think Ann and I both voted for that, and so did many other people, including Darren McCann and Marlene Brady, and all of
all
them.
the conservatives did.
But here's the thing: that corruption is so deep and they talk about the corruption in Minnesota and the fraud in Minnesota. Well, when you put it on the scale of how many people are in Wyoming compared to how many people are in Minnesota, the corruption and the fraud in Wyoming is deep, my friends. And let me tell you, if we don't ratchet it down and ratchet it down quick, we're going to have a serious problem in this state. We have got to take care of that.
Well, and I've looked at a lot of the stuff that Rebecca has uncovered, and it is absolutely incredible. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. Let me just give you one case in Sheridan. I think it's called the Peak Apartments. Now they do pay property taxes, but
They do.
every year their property taxes have gone down. Do you know of anybody that their property taxes go down?
Not mine.
No, and the rest of the state, I mean, there are buildings where the taxpayer owns 0.0001 of that building. And I mean, I'm sure in some weird way, it's probably legal, but it darn sure doesn't look legal. I mean, it looks dirty.
The optics are bad.
Oh, you mean what? Optics are bad?
The optics are bad.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me tonight. Last program of this type, the session's ending, and we'll get to go back to normal. Well, maybe a little bit normal.
You'll be back in your regular studio.
I will be. I cannot tell you how excited I am to go home and to see the lovely Christine and the puppies. And it's kind of cute when I talk to Christine, like I was talking with her today, and I could hear Hope. Hope's our little pit bull. And she's just like whining and like talking into the phone. It was pretty cute. So get to go home here pretty quick. Well, thank you very much for joining us, guys.
Always a pleasure.
If people want to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
Well, we are both listed on wyoleg.gov. If you go to the legislator section at the bottom of the screen, and then you can search by name, Gary, Ann. There are two Garys between the Senate and the House.
Right.
There's only one Ann. The phone number that's listed on mine, that's my cell phone number, folks. My email address is there. Gary's is
Absolutely.
you can get us easily there. We're both on Facebook. Where I'm on Twitter. I'm like on everything. Yeah, but we're easy to get a hold of, and we answer calls. We respond.
And if we don't answer calls, folks, it's not because we don't want to talk to you, probably because we're busy. So leave a message, and we're happy to get back to you and talk to you. And we want to talk to people.
I like text. Text me,
Yeah.
because then
That's
I'll
good.
call you. I'll call you right away if I can.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us for all the episodes of the Roundup. I think this was a fun series
Yeah.
to put together, and next year we'll have it refined a little bit more. I'm not sure if we'll continue doing these throughout the year. Definitely not every night, but we'll let you know what's happening. But thank you very much for watching. Thank you for paying attention to the Open Range Record. You have all made it a tremendous success, and I checked the numbers before tonight's show, and already in 2 short months, the Open Range Record has over 45,000 page views.
That's amazing. That's great.
That is tremendous. 45,000 times people chose to come to us for their news as opposed to, the opinion writers. So thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned to the Open Range Record and to Cowboy State Politics. Have a very good night, and we'll talk to you